Welcome to Overtime on Inferno, your weekly roundup of all the biggest news in CSGO. Quicker than all of our predictions look very, very silly. Please remember to rate and review us at the end of the episode. It really helps us. My name's Elliot. This is Harry. Let's get into it. So first things first, we are Loganless this week. We are without Logan for I think the first time ever. But in his stead, we have Harry. You might know him as the Rhombus guy from HLTV. He writes a lot of articles. He makes a lot of graphs. They're very interesting.
Yeah, well, obviously Liquid was so bad that Logan just couldn't get out of bed this morning. So here I am. Got to pick up where he left off.
He's very sad about NA, and also I think he's had a tooth taken out. So he's
mostly NA though.
Yeah, mostly NA, but also he can't really talk properly, and that's not because of his American accent. It's because of the tooth thing. As you might imagine, this is going to be largely major focused because the major is on. So let's start with... I can't remember what we covered last week, but I think it's just worth reiterating that FaZe Clan went 0-3. I don't know if we covered this last week. You would think I would remember. But FaZe Clan went 0-3 at the Legends Stage.
Yeah, well, this is the way you start, isn't it? Because... I think everyone really, as much as everyone was saying, it's going to be an open major, it's just like no one would have been surprised if FaZe just turned up, were in their Cologne form, in front of a crowd again, and they were just fine.
Yeah.
But no, everyone was right. Apparently, Pro League is a real event, and it does matter, and apparently the RMRs matter as well. Which I remember saying, they don't matter. It's FaZe. They're different. They're not different. They're the same.
I think it's really difficult if you haven't been taking events seriously. Let's give FaZe the benefit of the doubt and say they weren't taking these events seriously. I think it's very difficult to not take things seriously and then just switch back into full-blown, we're going to win everything mode. Like, I don't think you can just turn it on and off like a tap. I think you have to have a little bit of momentum. Like when Na'Vi won in Stockholm, they'd won the previous event, if I remember right, or at least the last big event. Whereas, and when FaZe won the major, they looked really good in the event beforehand. This time, they didn't look great coming into it, and I think that's really mattered. But they're not alone either. There's been a lot of things going wrong in the Legend Stage. But FaZe Clan obviously lost the first game to Cloud9. Cloud9 came in from the Challenger Stage, had a bit of a warm-up. Best of one happens. Their second game was Team Vitality. Got absolutely crushed by ZywOo. Again, it can happen. Bad News Eagles, though. What happened there?
Well, I've my Bad News Eagles takes. I think they've aged well, but maybe they haven't. Because I remember saying on the pre-major podcast, I said Bad News Eagles were rubbish and they weren't even worth talking about. And to be fair, I was right for 99% of this major. All they did was just come back on CT. They are literally just M4A1 abusers who know how to pug on Mirage. And then they beat FaZe. And my head's gone. My head's completely gone. I didn't believe it happened while I was watching it, after I watched it.
I think I remember you saying 2 days later, like, I'm still not taking in that FaZe are out of the major because they lost to Bad News Eagles.
I think I put it in the newsletter, actually. It's just like, I remember just asking, like, does anyone else get a bit of a moon landing vibe from this stream? It's just something about it. I'm just not convinced. Like, I can't believe Brokey, how bad Brokey was in that best of three. Because I know there's stuff about the gambling. We probably don't want to get into the gambling because it's just
it's also none of our business as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, like I don't care if you play PUBG for 6 hours the night before a major. If you win the major, it's fine. The problem is when you don't win the major, and when you don't get any opening picks either. Then the agendas are allowed to come out because
that's the thing with Brokey, right? Like, he isn't an AWPer who gets picked. He's not an AWPer who opens up rounds, which is okay as long as he's winning 6, 8, 10 clutches at an event, which at FaZe's peak he was doing. He was the best clutcher in the world, like, by raw numbers. Okay, well, you can contextualize them however you want. He was, to my eye as well, the best clutcher in the world. Like, he was playing every clutch perfectly and hitting every shot in the clutches. And that's what you're looking for from Brokey, because you know he isn't the type of person who's going to get you opening picks. And as soon as he isn't the like uber closer that he was back then, he becomes a bit deadweight is strong, but if he's not closing 8 rounds an event that he shouldn't be closing, and he's not winning you rounds off opening picks, what does he do?
Because it's not even just the 1vx's that he was so good at. It was those CT side holds, like that overpass B cliff. That is when I think of Rogi, I think of that. It's like you're in a 4v5, there's flashes flying, and he's a combat AWPer. The amount of times he whiffers long range is insane, but at close range, he's proper wicked. And then he couldn't do it because he goes for the same fights. It's not this is why I've heard people call him aggressive, and obviously that's just not true. But I can see why you'd think it is, because he's like Kenny S was loving him. I remember someone did, I think it was a Jackson interview. Kenny S was like, "Yeah, Brokey's my favorite player," and it's like, okay, but yeah, he just didn't hit anything in that Bad News Eagles series, and that was the one where, okay, it's not on stage, because Brokey's always been the player. Like I did some stats recently, and Brokey's better in playoffs than he is in group stages of like majors and Colognes and Katowices. But he didn't ramp up at all. I don't know what happened, but it's all intangibles of Brokey, because it doesn't make any sense. Why would you be better in bigger matches? There's like 10 players who did that, and all of them played like no maps.
And one of them was Chopper, which
we'll get onto that, I'm sure.
The thing with Brokey is he's so composed. He's so cool that you can imagine being on a stage doesn't actually impact him at all. So when other players drop off a bit because of the pressure, he just stays at the same level and he looks better compared to other people. But the pressure was on off stage and he crumbled against Bad News Eagles. And it wasn't even like Bad News Eagles were being powered by, I think GXX is their AWPer, right? Like I think he had quite an off series as well. It was all one flat throw.
He doesn't kill people. Synopsy. The map 3 was Synopsy.
Oh, sorry, yes, Synopsy,
it was just
yes.
Like, that is proper Waylander PGL Krakow, because he's never going to do anything again. He never did anything beforehand. But that map, he was there. He was right
You're
there.
You're such a Bad News Eagles hater.
Yeah, I've got to be. Someone has to be.
I love him. I'm all in on Bad News Eagles. I just like the way they play.
Yeah,
they
hugging.
Because they realize they're not going to outmaneuver FaZe Clan. They're not going to play like Na'Vi and beat a Na'Vi. They're not going to play like Na'Vi and beat anyone. Why not just play to what you're actually strong at? Like it really annoys me when like NA teams stopped being so crazy and started trying to play like EU teams. It's like you're just going to make yourself like a worse version of Astralis rather than the best version of like Cloud9 as they were back then. And Bad News Eagles, like they know what they're good at, and it might not be the most beautiful Counter-Strike. It might not be the thing that's going to take you to the number 1 spot in the world, but I'm not sure there is a playstyle that's going to make Bad News Eagles a top 10 team consistently. Why not go all in on high variance
qualifiers and getting some stickers, knocking out a good team, and then leaving? That's the stuff.
Look,
just ruin my playoffs and leave. That's all.
I know you're saying upsets ruin playoffs, but they very much made the Legend Stage as well.
Well, we'll see after playoffs. We'll see after playoffs, because this is the thing with Krakow. Everyone loved Krakow until you had to watch Immortals play Gambit, and I know you disagree with this, but
all right, Immortals Gambit wasn't a great game. I'm not going to lie to you.
We're outsiders in the final. You know we are.
Yeah, but outsiders are legitimately. We'll get on to outsiders.
Let's stop there.
So the other O3 team, I don't know how much of NIP you watched, but FaZe Clan and NIP were at 2 0-3 teams in the Legend Stage. What?
Yeah, you're Alexi B. I think I just have to give this one to you for Alexi B, to be honest.
Well, so the thing is, for once, I'm willing to give him a little bit of leeway, because it's not his fault that he doesn't speak Swedish.
But it is his fault for signing a contract with a Swedish team.
Yeah, but like I'd sign a contract then IP, knowing that in about 6 months' time they'd change their mind again. And look, Bronan left Fnatic. He said to stop speaking English, probably to get away from Smooyar is more accurate. But he said he didn't want to speak English. NIP within like 3 months go to speaking English. Bronan looked awful. I'm sorry, he did not look good at this event. This is a guy who was one of the best players in Sweden a year, 2 years ago, if not the best rifler in Sweden. He looked terrible. I don't know. I haven't looked into what his rating was, but like the amount of kills he missed that he would normally have got was just, it was mind blowing. He just didn't look very good at all. And Hampus had that little period when Alexi B came in where he wasn't calling, where he was looking like a legitimate superstar, and it was about 7 maps.
It's
but
the RMR, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
5 maps, maybe 4.
Yeah, fine. And he looked really good. And then he came in here and he like reverted to the mean, as you might expect. Alexi B, I don't know how much this is actually on him because he hasn't had long. The language has changed in the team. I'm willing to sort of let Alexi B off for this event because it isn't his fault that he doesn't speak Swedish. Like,
yeah, it's a long-term project. You have to look at NIP and say it's not, because they've switched their IGL, they've switched their language. The RMR, yes, everyone got a bit overexcited, but that is obviously very normal. But this team is not going to be good for 6-7 months. Everyone said it when they made the change. They still need a new AWPer. Rez is not going to be a long-term AWPer. If you're going international, it's not just to get Alexi B. Like, I think he's quite good, but he's not worth changing your language. If you're changing your language, it's because there's more moves down the line, you would think. And I think we'll just have to wait and see on NIP. I still think that rifle core is good, even if Brolan had a bad event. I still think Brolan, Hampus, and Rez, like, if that's your rifle core, you're probably going to be quite a good team. You just need a warm body to hold an AWP passively.
I think the rifle core is good, but I don't think it's great without a top tier AWPer behind it.
So, but what type of profile AWPer? I mean, this is the thing with NIP that's so annoying, is that Device would be the perfect AWPer for having aggressive riflers, and he could just lock everything down.
Yeah, that's fair.
But who do you even get? Who do you even get? I think it's one of those. I think if the CIS AWPers are as good at English as a lot of people have been saying recently, like, it's apparently English just isn't an issue for people like. I think Wonderful said he was open to English teams. People like that.
I don't know if you've seen his interviews. His English is.
Oh, is it not?
He speaks English, but he's not like. I don't know if it might be as well. Doing interviews in English is. People don't like doing interviews anyway. Doing interviews in a second language is tough. But his English, it's decent, but he's not like fluent. I think he might take a little while to adjust. And also, I don't think you're prizing away from Spirit at this moment in time. But
no, I don't mean literally him. I just mean there is people out there who can speak English now and who can hold an AWP and do it better than S-Attack did, and then Rez can do rifling better than
S-Attack does. Yeah, the S-Attack move continues to baffle me. I don't get it. I don't know what he does.
He's never had a stable team, S-Attack, ever. I literally did a Rush V article on him. I went back on his average like time on a team before that team makes roster changes is like a month, literally a month. And you can say that maybe he's just not good, whatever. But I think support players get a lot of bad rep when a team doesn't win a game because of a support player very often, but they also don't lose a game. Like Inters and Perfecto. Perfecto is a very good, like the best support player probably, but they hover around like 0.90 to 1.1 and they're fine. And then the reason you win is if your stars aren't killing people. S-Tag can be a fine support player for a top 20, top 10 team.
Yeah, but I just don't understand why you would therefore bother to change to S-Attack, because
he's someone you don't cut, but you don't sign either, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, he's never had a stable team, but neither is Calix, and nobody's talking about Calix as being a good player. Like, nobody's talking about like.
Nobody says S-Tag is a good player. Let's stop this.
They definitely.
You either want to cut him or just have him in as.
I've definitely seen people say he's good. I think they're insane, much like you seem to.
Astralis fans, probably.
Yeah, I mean, let's move on because we're at like 15 minutes and we spoke about three teams, I suppose, if we count Bad News Eagles. The team that NIP lost to 2-0, by the way, was Sprout, who I think, okay, they went out 1-3. I think they could be relatively happy with what they showed.
Yeah, no, it almost looks like their buyouts for Stair are worth it now. That was the whole point of the tournament for them, so well played.
I mean, Xiphon as well looks like an excellent player. I mean, there is a world where this team sticks together and becomes top 10. Like the issue for this team, as we mentioned beforehand, is still Slacks to me. Like he's passable, but he is going to hold back what is a very, very solid rifle core. I mean, Lounx, or however you're meant to say it, Stare, Xiphon, they're all good. They're all really good. Like, there is a world where this team becomes like Ents was in the last sort of season, where their AWPer is almost immaterial to how good the riflers are, and they just somehow power through when everyone else slips. Because at the moment, the top of the rankings, none of those teams are convincing.
So
there's a world where
sort of
shoot up.
Sort of a more general thing. Do you think the good teams? This is probably not a very over time on Inferno topic, but do you think the reason the good teams are so bad at this major is because the bottom half of the top 10 and top 20 are good, or is it just that have they got better? Have they all put in 120 hours for the major, or have they caused, or is the top team spoiling it? Because this is the thing when you talk about a team like Sprout, they're quite a good team to be going out last of a major. Like they're quite a good team to be the 16th best team at the Legends Stage.
Yeah, that is true. And there is definitely, I think you can definitely make the argument either way. I think there's no world, I don't care how many good teams there are in the Legends Stage, there's no world where FaZe should be 0-3. And so you have to say they bowled it. I think you have to say NIP bowled it. Like 0-3, but then like of these teams, who are you saying really should be quote unquote should be 0-3? Like you're probably looking at
Sprout and BNE are the only two.
Sprout and BNE, maybe Big. Honestly,
no, you can't keep underrating Big.
They've got a stand in. Like
Sin's really good.
Yeah, I know, but when you talk about like what should happen, like a team with a stand in the Legend Stage. You're thinking like 15th, 16th. Like I think that's not unreasonable, and I do think the gap between, say, outsiders, say Mouse, and even somebody like Big, and like the third and fourth, second best teams in the world is probably, it is smaller than it's been for a while, but I don't know if that's because the top teams aren't that good. I don't know if it's because these teams are getting better. I don't know if it's a consequence of the closed circuit that we're in.
So yeah, it's one of those things. Is the major the peak of the year, or is it just another tournament? And for a lot of teams, like as much as the prestige is still there and everything, it's not as big a deal as for Bad News Eagles, who will be putting in all of their time, all of their effort. They don't play any other tournaments. Yeah. This is their only tier 1 tournament, and whether it's subconscious or not, you will approach things differently if you know you've got another tier 1 land in like a few weeks. But yeah, so a team like that, Liquid, I've seen, because they, I don't think it's as bad as FaZe, but I think Liquid and Vitality, it's just, bottle it is the only way to describe what they've done.
Let's move on to Team Vitality, because
even worse one first.
This team won Pro League, and we talked earlier, maybe Pro League is a real tournament, maybe it matters. The 2 finalists went out in the Legend Stage, so maybe it isn't. Maybe we're back to it not being real.
Definitely not real. Well, I've never said it was real, so it's fine.
You did. I think you said maybe it's real about 15 minutes ago.
That's very on brand for me. But it's only real because FaZe lost, and then you've got to pick one agenda for each narrative, and you can't stray from that. But yes, so Vitality, I think it's the same problem as we said on the pre-event show. We always said it. It's firepower. Spinx is, Maui Snake is trying to tell me that Spinx is a fraud, which is great, but he's probably like your third star. He's probably like Magisk and Astralis.
It's a team
And
of 1 star
yeah,
and 3 third stars.
yeah,
Is what it is.
It is old third stars. So I think
Mm.
when you have results this bad, I think you've got to look at it. You've got to pull the plug again, and it's gonna feel horrible for them to do it. But I think the reason that Magisk and Zonic joined at the same time is because at some point they want Magisk to IGL.
I agree.
So just get Magisk in the entry pack, get Apex out, and get a proper lurker so Spinks can be aggressive like he was in Ents. Like on Ents, Spinks was running out Ancient middle. He was playing some of Config's roles. And then on this team, he's literally just like a little bitch, like Rops cosplaying. Just getting like flank kills, mistiming clutches, and just somehow winning because the team fucks up. Like he doesn't look to have the internal clock of like the best lurkers in the world. Because like when you compare him to someone like even like a Frozen from Mouse, like a Frozen has become a lurker after BMAS left, and it just looks like he's got it all engaged, like he knows where to be. Even though
Yeah.
Spinks is he's not been like as terrible as some people make out to be. He doesn't seem to have that lurker brain wired in just yet, to my eye.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. He doesn't have that innate timing that somebody like Rops does. Somebody like, the other players you mentioned, Frozen, even Hunter when he was doing it on G2. And G2 said like, oh, Hunter wasn't meant to do this. Like, it's not his best role. He looks so much better at it than Spinks, who apparently did. When he signs, Onyx said, now we have perfect roles. Now everyone's in the perfect role. Well, it doesn't fucking look like it, does it?
Yeah, I think I said that as well. I thought Spinks was a lot more passive than he was. I think because now it's sort of because I think on Ents maybe Dia does quite a lot of the like actual boring roles on T side, whereas Spinks was doing the fun lurking roles. And now he's because like the only maps, even on CT side though, he's dropped off because I remember you saying before that Spinks is one of those players who was even in Ents T side it wasn't really important. He was just multi killing on CT every round.
Yeah.
But those multi kills they're drying up. They're just drying up.
He was like a 1.3 CT player on Ends. He was absolute fucking lockdown. Like they've tried to replace that with Sun Pius because he also can't play on the T side and only is good on CT side. And yeah, like that's what he was. But you have Magisk to do. Like Magisk is the king of lockdown multi kill. Magisk is a turret. Like he is a sentry gun. You put him in a position. You don't fuck him around. He will get you a double kill. Like he'll get you 2 kills every time. You don't need Spinks for that. It seems very strange. I mean, obviously it's easy to say that with hindsight. There is a world where this move works out, and we're not talking about this. But I think you're right. Like they have to look at it and go, it's time to swap Apex out for Magiska's IGL and get another star. But that also seems ridiculous. But it does seem like the right thing to do.
But the next major's in Paris. Like it's one of those things. You probably don't want to cut a French player before a Paris major, but you also want to win the Paris major. And
the French fans are going to support ZywOo no matter what.
Yeah,
I wouldn't worry about that.
No, but I just mean it's like they're already quite unhappy about the identity changing, and Apex going that really is just it's a ZywOo international team. But that is the future. That is definitely the future. So the sooner you do it, the better, if you ask me.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Liquid.
We've covered all the 1 and 3 teams. Go to the 2 and 3 teams. Where do you want to start? Big Ents or Liquid? Who do you want to talk about?
Liquid. Got to Liquid.
Yeah, so Team Liquid
for the major.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. Look, you come up against Team Spirit in a 2-2 game. I cannot think of a team I'd rather play less in a 2-2 game than Team Spirit.
Yeah, Ryan was just
maybe Outsiders actually, but
yeah, I think Ryan was saying this on a different podcast, but like apparently Liquid was struggling against Spirit in a practice, and then one of them told him like before the game that like, oh, anyone but Spirit, and then they get Spirit, and you could tell they were just Elysian Yakinda. I've said this for ages. You can't be Team Liquid and have Yakinda as your best player. He's too aggressive to be your best player. If you're Liquid, your best player needs to be Elise because he's just more stable just because of his play style.
Yeah.
And this event, neither of them. Neither of them did anything.
Yeah, that's definitely worrying for them. Where when your entry pack isn't playing well, your first man in and the guy's meant to trade him. You're left with like Nitro, OC, and Naf. Now Naf is a very good player. There's no doubts about his ability. There's no doubts about Nitro's ability either, but very much in the opposite direction. OC is a massive question mark, and he's somebody who you want to just like. You want to win, not despite OC, but you don't want to be relying on him to drop 25, 26 kills for you to win a game. Like, you want him to be like, he can pop off, he might get 15 kills, but it's okay because Elysian and Yakindo are just getting us into bomb sites. And Spirit are a team who do have individuals. Like, the amount of skill going through that Team Spirit roster makes it so difficult to like get entry kills on them because every single player on that team can multi-frag CT side. Like, Siren's like their fourth man. That guy is mechanically superb. He's so good mechanically. And like, I mean, Chopper can, like, he's not great, but he mechanically sometimes. His crosshair placement, right? His crosshair placement is awful, but he can aim, but his crosshair placement is terrible. And he will have. I mean, he had an off map in map 2 of that game. I think he dropped like 8 kills. But as IGLs go, he's mechanically decent. Like, it's very difficult to just outfight Team Spirit.
Yeah, I think the thing
when you're relying on Yakindo to do that, it's quite difficult.
Yeah, see, that's the thing with Liquid. I think they're like the opposite of FaZe because like FaZe like backload all of their talent to be in the 3v5s. Liquid, if they're going to win the round, basically based on the entry kill.
Yeah,
or not the entry kill, but if Yakindo or an Elise are alive to entry, and yeah, it's just it's again. I think the OC point is again it will hurt them. It's the American brand, but you're telling me someone like Device is on the market again, and they've just like you said on this podcast that they've got all this money in the world, that Yakindo's going to get the bag, all of this, but why can't they get someone like Device to join? Like, why?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even like with EG where they were going to sign a French player, but they'd have been in the EU RMR. Liquid have a quote unquote spare EU spot.
Yeah, it's one of those. I think it's. Do you think OC ceiling's that much higher than it already is? Because like, he's going to get better. He's going to get better with experience, especially like this is his first proper stage event. Really, everyone gets a little bit better after the first.
It's not like he's been on this team for 2 months. He's been on this team for a decent length of time, and he has got a little bit better. How much better is he going to get? Like, maybe there's a eureka moment where something clicks in his mind, and he's like, "Oh, if I just do this instead of, maybe if I don't peek here, maybe if I play a little bit more, like maybe there is a eureka moment for OC where it all clicks and he becomes superb." I mean, mechanically, you watch him and you're like, he looks like a top tier AWPer, but then he'll just peak and die when he shouldn't, like so many times, and you're like, well, if you just didn't do this, you'd be so good. But that's really hard to coach out of somebody.
Yeah, they should get Zonic because he coached that out of Device.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, is it?
No.
But yeah, so Team Liquid beat Na'Vi on Ancient.
Then lost to Spirit
to go 2-1
on Ancient,
and then lost to Heroic. Got Spirit in the decider. Lost them on Ancient and Vertigo, I believe. I can't remember. I was out during map 1 and 2. I got back for the end of map 2 and start of map 3.
Yeah, it was Vertigo and Ancient. They lost.
Yeah, I mean, if you can beat Na'Vi on Ancient, you'd hope to be able to beat Spirit. But obviously, it just doesn't work like that sometimes. Like, and Team Spirit are dangerous, man. Like, we'll get to Spirit in a minute. Ensign Big also 2-3. So Big, like, it's kind of hard to say too much. They went 2-0 in best of ones, lost all the best of threes, but they're still playing with a standard. Even if, as you say, he is really good, it isn't their full roster. This isn't maximum strength Big. However, if Favon comes back, Do you swap Sin out, or do you swap somebody else out?
Wow, it's roles, isn't it? It's roles because I think Keto's basically their entry fragger now. Basically, Chavson gets to do his baity IGL second in, get all the flash assists to make him look like a support player when actually he's just baiting. That's the Tabson role. And then it's the thing because I think Crimbo and Sin are actually both very good, but they're not better than Faven. I think the reason Faven won't come back will be nothing to do with in game.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think
But
he
say
will
he
come.
does. Say he does. Who do you take out? Do you just take out Sin for role's sake, or do you say clearly we're not that good anyway, even with these roles? We might as well try something different. Just fuck it. Just put in Faven, Crimbo, Sin, Tabson. See what happens.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like I just don't know enough about if Crimbo or Sin could just become an entry fragger, because then obviously you just solve the problem and you make one of them the bitch and take Keto out. But Keto's been quite good being the ultra
Keto
aggressive
isn't
foil for
horrible.
Tabson. So yeah, it's just a really tricky decision. I think you need to know the players better, which is not easy.
That's fair. I mean, ideally you would. I mean, maybe you could like temper Tabson's ego, make him entry frag. That'd be fun.
That's about as easy as making Apex entry frag in 2022. This looks like.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't just like force him to do it. Whatever. Ents 2-3. This team still looks like it needs a bit more time, which is strange. But I don't know. I don't know what the ceiling for this Ents team is.
Yeah, this is the thing. I don't think the ceiling is as high as even. But then you would say the same about the ceiling of the old Ents team. I think the ceiling will be if they can take advantage of a time where the big teams and the best players are all. And there probably will be a time like that. But it's just this team doesn't quite have as much firepower, I think, even though some Fios is amazing. And that Vitality game, like if he can get to that level more often, which is a cliche, and I hate saying that, but they are a dangerous team. They're clearly a dangerous team. Snappy is very, very good at RGLing. He should be in G2 right now because he can call these styles way better than anyone else, and he actually frags. He had a proper Carrigan game against Vitality where maybe I don't know his final rating, but the multi kills he was getting, just deciding to entry and just getting multi kills, like that is the modern IGL. That is exactly what you want.
He's always been very good at nuke as well. Like he has a very good understanding of when to take space and how to flank. Like it sounds really obvious, but there are a lot of players who might know when to flank or how to flank. But you were saying earlier about like Spinx's innate timing isn't always there. Once he's on the flank, he's fine, but he doesn't necessarily know when to. Snappy has a very good understanding of when he needs to take the space and flank with it, when he should back off, and like what the best play is once he's flanked. He is very, very good at that, especially on the CT side. Mechanically, he's weirdly one of the best in-game leaders probably in the world. He actually does have like he can play to a level that a lot of other in-game leaders, especially at the top teams, can't. And I think that's commendable. But yeah, like the Sense team, I just don't know what the ceiling is. But then I didn't know what the ceiling was of the last one. I think it was a perfect storm of teams maybe not being at their peak and Ents peaking at the right time. I mean, we saw fucking Movistar Riders at 5th in the world at one point. Like last season was weird with where I think there's a lot more good teams now, and I think Ents are getting crowded out a bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, that's all the teams who didn't get through. Now let's talk about the teams who did. Let's start with the 3-0 teams. Your favourites, Cloud9. It's
happening. It is happening. It's E-League Atlanta. It's not PGL Krakow. It's E-League Atlanta and Astralis in their little regions. My nice little passive Shiro and Axile. They're going to bottle it in the semi-finals to Outsiders, and that'll be that. but no, not to Frank Lampard. But no, seriously, like this team. A lot of people wrote them off after those best of ones. They lost to Greyhound. That feels like ages ago now because Axel woke up as soon as Axel wakes up, this team is unbelievably different, and they beat FaZe every time they play them. And Axel has a good game against FaZe every time he plays them. But their problem is they don't have FaZe anymore. They've got to actually beat Na'Vi. I feel like they've not played Na'Vi in ages, like a proper.
They might
long
not have
time.
to play Na'Vi.
Yeah, it's you look. They've got the easy side of the bracket, easy in the odd quote marks, and then because they play Mouse, and then they'll play the winner of Outsiders Fnatic, I think.
Yeah.
So those are all teams that in a vacuum Cloud9 should beat, I think. So what we're looking at is
you never get to play Outsiders in a vacuum, I'm afraid.
Yeah. So what we're looking at is potentially Cloud9 in a final, but it's hard not to have a feeling that something's going to go wrong, because this team, when I say they're like the old Astralis team, they are, and that comes with all the flaws as well. That comes with Shiro and Axel disappearing in playoff games when you least expect it and when you most expect it. It's just, I don't think they've got Nafany. I'm still not convinced. I think if this team goes far, I'm not sure they'll do it again, because they seem to rely on Shiro and Axel being stable players, which sometimes they're not in playoffs, and Nafany being incredible.
Being unstable.
They rely on Nafany. He is the same player as Art. They rely on Nafany going for stupid fights and stupid information plays, and then converting 4v5s. And that no team's ever been able to do that and win majors. But if this team wins a major, then fair fucks to them. Like,
this might be the best chance they get.
No,
we've talked about the teams who didn't go through, and you might have noticed, like FaZe Clan, Team Vitality, NIP, ENTS. Like, these are good teams who did go. Liquid, who didn't go through. Like, are Cloud9 going to get a better chance to win a major than one where the only team who are above them in the HLTV World Rankings, I think, left is Na'Vi, who went 3-2. Like, Na'Vi are not infallible. This might be their best chance to win a major, certainly for a while. But I think every team left in the event is saying the exact same thing. Every single team in this top 8 is thinking, fucking hell, we might, like, this is our best chance of winning a major, except maybe Na'Vi, like, we've already fucking won one, who cares? But everyone else, outsiders come into this top 8 and they go, we have to beat Fnatic, Mouse or Cloud9, and then you're in the final. It's almost a completely different type of pressure. All these teams came in not thinking we're going to win the major. Now they're looking at it going, shit, we might win the major. And that is a pressure that Cloud9 probably now have to deal with, is that, like, you're now second favourite for the major.
Yeah,
that's probably not what they were expecting.
Yeah, and that has to play over your head. And this is not a team that are strong mentally. Like, as much as coming back from the O2 with the best of ones, as much as that you can say that's mental strength, that's the changing of the times, I don't really care. When there's 18,000 screaming Brazilians at them, it is going to be difficult, because they've always struggled with being favourites. They lose to Greyhound and then beat FaZe. That sums up Cloud9.
Yeah.
And so you almost hope maybe they do want Na'Vi in the final. Maybe they need to play up to it. But we will see. We will see about Cloud9.
And the team Cloud9 are playing in their first quarterfinal. I say first, in their quarterfinal is a team went 3-2. A team maybe we weren't expecting to get this far, Mouse Sports. I'm very impressed by Mouse Sports. They're probably 6 months further ahead than I thought they were going to be with this roster. I thought it was going to take another 6 months for them to be a quarterfinals at a major team. I thought maybe the Blast Major, that's when Exertion would be ready. That's when, Frozen will have, like, figured out how to play these roles. That's when fucking JDC was actually just a multi-kill CT player consistently, which apparently he just is now.
Anti.
This team's quite impressive.
Yeah, they're this NXT team was obviously this good. The only people who apparently didn't see it was Maz's management, because they took so long to put these pieces back together.
Yep.
But we won't talk about that. This team is here and it's ready, and I think Torgies are still such a question mark. But which it happens a lot of these teams. They've got the same story as Liquid and Nip for me, where they their AWP is basically non-existent in some of these games, and that might be fine against some teams, but then you have people like Shiro who will just pick off those aggressive riflers, and you're
And aggressive
you're
AWPers
left in a
in
trickle
Torsey's
one. Yeah,
case.
yeah,
I think I will say in Torsey's defense, he's not the first AWPer who was like aggressive, who has struggled under Dexter. I mean, Dexter's system. I think when we had Jack on here a year ago, and we were talking about Mouse, and he said like Dexter's system in Australia was based around a very static AWPer, and when he got his hands on Acor, that isn't Acor's game. Like
no.
Acor can scrap, he can swashbuckle, but he doesn't want to be sat still. That's not his game. Like he's inconsistent, but he's best when he's like just in the middle of the fight. And I think Torsey, there's a world where he is very similar, where if you made him the star, you made him Dexter, like the star of the show, I think he could show off a little bit more. But I also don't think he's necessarily good enough to be the star of a team that's top 8 of a major. I think it's a bad stylistic fit for him in this team, and also I don't think if they changed to build around Torsey, it would be worth it either.
Yeah, that's just the tricky thing. Searson as well is another aggressive AWPer who you just see them miss shots so often, and it just kills rounds dead. If your AWPer's dying with nothing, you're spending 5k again next round. Like that, we all laugh at Jay, we all laugh at Shiro for saving so much, but there's a reason they do it. Like it's the difference between an extra gun round on CT side when you lose a lot of the time, and I just can't see Mouse beating Cloud9. I think that this is probably already an overachievement a little bit for where they are in their careers. Maybe not age, because some of them are actually quite old, but it's their first major playoffs for all 5 of them, even Frozen. And Frozen's been down for ages, even though he's young.
He's like 19 still, isn't he?
Yeah, he's literally really a child.
Depressing. But he was like 14 when people first heard of him. Frozen.
Yeah. He was already in Slovakia when he was like 12, probably. Sorry, Sticker. Sticker sucking? I think he is.
I think Guardian is as well, or is Guardian Slovakian?
He's awful.
Slovenian. Yeah, no, he is Slovakian. Yeah.
Awful visa doesn't count.
Like I said, like I think they're 6 months ahead of schedule. I don't think. Well, Mouse management certainly didn't think they were this good yet. I don't think everyone who watched NXT realized these guys were tier 1 players, but I don't think anyone realized quite how quickly they were going to be.
Yeah, it's fun they're playing Cloud9 because it's the 2 academy teams, isn't it? It's the two shining lights of the academy system. Even though Cloud9 didn't play in we play, it's still the, you put young players together early, and then they get that cohesion, they get that, and then you just don't change it. You don't mess with it, and it does work even against better teams if the players grow at a good enough rate, and that's showing with Miles, I think.
Miles' saving grace could be what we just talked about with Cloud9, in that they might choke, and Mouse seem like a team who like feed off momentum. I mean, they are still young. Like if they start rolling, JDC starts getting entries on the T side, they can like rack up 7-8 T rounds, and we've already seen how big like the CT sides can get with the A1S, and how much Cloud9 especially rely on them. If Mouse can start on the T side, get 7 rounds, like if JDC comes in hot, like there's a world where Cloud9 just crumble under pressure. And Mouse so far have dealt with pressure probably better than people were expecting. And I think some of that will come down to Frozen just being like he does not seem to give a shit about stress. Like he's just, you look whenever you like see him on camera, he looks like he's just woken up. Like he doesn't look like there's any pressure on him at all. He's the coolest man alive.
He's so stable. He's so stable, and that's exactly what you want in a star player. But I think the thing with Frozen is I don't think he's quite got that ceiling. Like I think he sort of reminds me of Stown a bit, where they're always good, but do they take over maps in the same way as like other players? Like I just don't. They're amazing players, because being consistent is just as hard as that. But I don't think if Miles is struggling, if Exertion isn't getting the entries and JDC isn't getting his multi-kills, I don't see a world where Frozen takes over a game from the lurker position. I just don't I don't think it happens very much from what I've seen of Mowers, and maybe that'll change in the playoffs. But because Frozen is clearly like he's probably a top 5, top 10 rifler already, and it's only been a few months of a completely new role for him. So we will.
The
we'll
fact
see.
that he's able to switch between roles and still stay stable is a testament to how good he is as a player in terms of just, I don't know, his ability to adapt to new positions and his ability to take on new information and react accordingly is incredibly impressive. Let's move on to the second semifinals. The two teams, we had Outsiders going through 3-1, and Fnatic also going through 3-1. How are Fnatic 3-1? This team is wildly inconsistent, especially on their T sides. I think they had two halves through the Challengers and Legend stage with 0 and 1 or 2 T rounds. They got 16-2'd, I think, twice.
Yeah, heroic 16-2.
And Outsiders did as well in the Challenger stage.
Yeah, it's not a team you expect to be here, and that is for good reason. But they've got that firepower, but you have to think this is where it all falls apart. They're playing Outsiders. Yeah. It's the exact style you don't want to play if you're Mezzi. Like Mezzi's very new to England leading. His stats have dropped off a little bit, but his team results have got better. So he's probably doing something right. But you can't beat the Jane machine if you're a team like Fnatic. No, they are the underdog killers. It's a narrative for a reason. That's what the Outsiders do.
I do agree. Like Outsiders just seem too structured, too reliable to fall to what is a very up and down Fnatic team that is all firepower and very little structure. Like it seems like a stylistic. It's an interesting stylistic clash, and they are quite opposed, quite diametrically opposed. But I just don't see a world where Outsiders don't just outgrind Fnatic.
Yeah, it's very rock paper scissorsy in my head, and I think that's a lot of this major is matchups, where the matchups come. Because I think we'll get later on with Heroic, because Heroic are. We'll save Heroic, but with Outsiders, I think it is just that matchup thing, and I think it's because if this is PGL Krakow, they are Gambit. They're the team.
You're
no
obsessed
one really
with replaying old stories.
But they
write
are.
A new one, Harry.
They are. Well, Outsiders are going to write a new one, because this time James is not going to bottle the major like he did at Star Ladder Berlin. He's not going to get 16. They got 16-3 twice. It's a bottle job. If you're going to get to the major final and ruin the major by getting all these upsets, you've got to perform in the final too.
Everyone got battered by Astralis back then. That's not fair.
Not always.
No, I mean there is no god tier team for Outsiders to get battered by now though. We talk about them always being they're the underdog killers. They always beat bad teams. There's no great teams left. They're probably looking at okay, you can talk about Na'Vi. I'm not convinced Na'Vi are that good at the moment. Outsiders, this is. They said before, when we got to the major final in Berlin, it was a fluke. Nowadays, now it wouldn't be a fluke. I think that was a quote from a couple of years ago from Jabe. He was like, "We're actually good now," and so he knows that in Berlin they were "Yeah, no, we shouldn't have been there." They're looking at it now, thinking, we can be in the major final. They should be beating Fnatic. I really think it should be 2-zip. It should be a simple one for Outsiders. Fnatic have done brilliantly to get here. I'm just not convinced they're actually good. I'd love them to be, because I'd love Mezzi to. I'd love to see a guy from fucking Birmingham in the major final. It's always nice hearing a Brummie accent on stream, but I just don't see a world where Outsiders aren't the better team. I still don't know how Fnatic are 3-1. Nikodos has been really mediocre.
Yeah.
And they're still winning.
Crims had that Mirage game that was ridiculous. That was proper vintage Crims. He doesn't even play Connector anymore, but he was still getting multi kills on Connector. That was Crims.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
That can't keep happening though.
No, it's not sustainable at all. It's not. That's the thing with Fnatic. It's a lot of the teams in this major. It's not sustainable, and no one will convince me otherwise.
Outsiders are the most sustainable team there.
Yeah, which is yeah. They are.
And that's
I feel
based on
nothing
like
else to say about that.
that's based on like fame. I think fame is ridiculous. I think he's super legit. I think he's my new Mia, where I'm convinced he's like he could be a top 10 player within like 6 months.
Oh,
I'm convinced.
it's really off brand for you because you've picked a CIS Century Fragger as your new buddy. That is
Yeah, but
sort of
he's not. He can because of
ridiculous.
his ridiculous first bullet aim. But I think Norbert does a lot of their entry fragging. I'd have to rewatch.
They changed a lot of roles recently. I think Fame started playing like A toilets instead of Norbert because Norbert was rubbish at it. And then Fame was ridiculous there this major. Like he was one of the best A toilets players I think I've seen in a long time. Just the way he was showing down everything.
His mechanics are just like untouchable. He doesn't miss. Like he's really good. So move on to the third semi-final. You wanted to talk about Heroic a bit, and they've got a pretty difficult matchup with Team Spirit, who are mercurial.
Oh, there it is. Favorite word. I think beating Spirit is going to be a harder match than whatever semi-final Heroic get. I'm going to say it. I think Heroic have always matched up so well against Na'Vi, even though they'd lost to like peak Na'Vi in the major quarterfinal in Stockholm, but they looked better against Na'Vi than anyone else did. They've got something about their style. I don't know. Cadian's calling because Cadian is a good caller. You can just see in their CT sides how active they are. But against Spirit, I can't be. You would never bet on a game with Spirit in on the favorite.
No,
ever.
No, you really wouldn't. You really like. It's so difficult to bet against them because, especially for whatever reason, the major cycle just elevates them. I don't know what it is. Like every time the major comes around, they like Patsy just turns into a better player. Siren turns into a better player. Chopper turns into a better player. Like it's really strange. I will say like the concern with Spirit is still probably wonderful. He has been good at this event, but against Liquid, I thought he had I think he really struggled in that third map. He was missing shots that top warpers don't miss. And I think he kind of struggles a little bit with pressure. Heroic will constantly put you under pressure. Every round, Heroic put you under pressure with the amount of space they take. They constrict you. And I think it comes down to, can Wonderful live with that? I guess the bonus is that Heroic's AWPer is Cadian, who is a good player, but he's not simple. He's not Zywoo. He's not fucking Dexter. Like he's not going to like shit down your throat if you have an off game. I think that's probably their one saving grace. It should be a fun game though, because it's Heroic, as you say, like they take so much space, they're so active, and they're just going to fight you. And as we've seen, like Spirit like fighting. They don't mind getting down and dirty. They mechanically they can hang with anyone. Like they don't mind it when it turns into a scrap. Like, but it's very strange to me that with like Chopper was forged in Vega Squadron, and this Spirit team, they do still have those fast-paced, powerful, we're just going to run through a smoke and we're going to kill you. They do still have those, but they're much more measured now. And they can also do the, we're going to hit at 25 seconds. We're going to clear every angle perfectly with a perfect utility. And there's nothing you can do if you're playing in the site. They can do those as well. And that's the evolution of Chopper as a leader, is that he's actually able to call these rounds now. He knows he's seen somebody like Outsiders, somebody like Na'Vi in their pomp, where they were like they could slow the game down and then hit you with the in-swinger with the fast round on the Tech 9s. And it catches so many teams off guard.
They've also got Halley back, because last version didn't have Halley, did they? So I think that it's like the Antwerp run was already amazing, but there's something about them in this group stage without Dexter, whether they actually just look like a better team to me, because I think you could easily write off last time as Patsy's first event. He's very aggressive. It's the classic. You're an entry fragger. You're a young guy, sick aim. First event, you go amazing. It's the second event that proves if you're actually good. And Patsy is having, it's not quite as good as Antwerp, but he is having another barn burner. And it's I think this is the best game of the quarterfinals, to be honest. I think they match up so well against each other. Like we were talking about rock paper scissors earlier. This is just two rocks just hitting each other, and tune in for it, I reckon.
Yeah, tune in for all of them. If you're going to miss one, miss Outsiders Fnatic, but let's tune in for all of them. Probably the other contender for best semi-final, Furia versus Na'Vi. Now, we haven't talked about Furia. Look, I know you wrote that article about home advantage and how it probably doesn't exist. And I agree with you. It probably doesn't exist. So how do you explain Furia going 3-0?
Okay, so how do you explain Furia not going 3-0 in the champion stage? Maybe Furia just in the challenges. I think what it is what I don't like about the home advantage narrative is that it undervalues good teams playing well. Like I think this is what the home advantage article was really about, is about 0-0 Nation and Imperial. It's not a magic wand. It can't make a bad team a good team. And with Furia, what it can do, which is what happened with Cloud9 in Boston, it can make a good team a great team. That's the thing with home advantage. It gets you like one or two extra places than you would normally in a vacuum. And Furia with K-Serara in this form, like I don't think it's that rogue that they're 3-0. I think it'd be rogue if they beat Na'Vi. I think they've got the hardest draw. They've been rewarded for going 3-0 by some bad seeding mechanisms with the best team in the tournament. And that is where the challenge is. But if they beat Na'Vi, you can't see many teams stopping that momentum, even a Cloud9, I think.
Yeah, I was largely just trying to throw you under the bus. I do agree. Let's not forget they played big in the best of 3 in a 2-0. Like that's a game you'd expect Furia to win with home advantage. You'd expect Furia to win that in Germany. They beat Spirit in a best of 1, and they beat Ents, who we've already mentioned don't look that great in a best of 1. Furia Spirit, that's a complete toss up. Like you couldn't pay me to bet to tell you who's going to win that. Like there's just no way you can know who's going to win that game. It isn't ridiculous. They're 3-0 at all. But they have looked very good. And as you say, Kea Serato, this is like the second or third tournament in a row where he's looked like
on T-side too,
god tier form. Yeah,
his T-side rating has been like as good as simple, I think, for this and Pro League, which is just it's not normal. It's not normal. It's not been anything that he's done before, and he's always been dog shit in playoffs. But then it's just there's something about it. There's something about it. It's going to be so much pressure on Furia they've got here. They've got to the playoffs, but this is where they always stumble. Furia have always been that team that look amazing in the group stage, but they just have that glass ceiling. And against Na'Vi, that glass ceiling is going to feel pretty low. Like you're not standing up. You're going to have to smash it while crowd.
The thing I worry about for Furia, it's like you said earlier, they rely on art to do these mad info plays, to do these mad like duels, and either win them or get traded.
Not very often.
You don't do that into simple bit electronic perfecto some young. You don't get away with shit like that. You don't fight bit and win in a fair duel. You don't fight electronic and win in a fair duel.
You got a chance these days. This is the thing with Na'Vi, and we'll come on to Na'Vi, because Bit has not been. He's been warming up a little bit, but he's not the superstar of 2021. And electronic is still like an amazing player, and you would never write him off. He's the big game player, and this is a big game. But you do see a little avenue for Furia there, because Furia they've not got like no firepower. It's safe as, again, we're back to this. The AWPA, they're a rifle team. Rifle teams against simple. You don't love your odds. You don't love them at all. But there is something there. K-Serara and Yuri are still two of the best rifles in the world. Have been for years. But K-Serara is now leveling up, and he's leveling up at exactly the right time. And you never know. You never know what can happen in with the home crowd. And it's a cliche, whatever. It's not statistically a thing, but emotionally it feels like one.
Yeah, it does. It really does feel like a thing. And I think it would be easy to write it off statistically as like, actually Na'Vi haven't looked that good at this event. They haven't looked that good for a while. You can be like, Furia are coming in good form. Na'Vi look shaky. And if you're not at 100%, the last team you want to like start losing against is Furia with a home crowd behind them. Like, because whatever you think of the home crowd advantage, it's going to make Furia even more aggressive than they already are. It's going to make Furia even more like loud. It's going to make like Art is going to spawn halfway through the map. Like he is going to be, if they play Vertigo, he's going to be at the bottom of ramp by 1 minute 50 every single fucking round on both sides of the map. He's gonna fly. And if you come in slightly cold, Na'Vi, like you say, they lost to Liquid in a best of one. Like they lost to somebody else as well. Who did they lose to? Cloud9. Okay, fine. It happens. If you come in slightly cold, Art gets 1 or 2 entry kills in the first gun round. Chaos Harato gets rolling. You're like 5-0 down before you feel like you've had a fair duel.
Yeah.
Things can go wrong.
Especially when you're Na'Vi,
but it's also Na'Vi.
But Na'Vi are a team that they were always front runners. Like even this year, their round win percentage is higher than FaZe, and that's because FaZe win the close games. FaZe are in close games all the time. Like Na'Vi, if Na'Vi are on song and Bit is hitting 14 headshots a game, like they win 16-6. Na'Vi win 16-6. They don't win 16-14. It feels like. Maybe that's a wrong narrative, but that's what it feels like to me. It feels like they're a team that you can tell whether they're on form early on in the first 10 rounds. They're not a comeback team, and if that could be perfect for Fury. You just can't just look at it and say they've got the best player in the world. They won Stockholm, they were second at last major. You can't just look at this and say this is Navi's major, because it's not like Stockholm. There's too many banana skins, and if they beat Fury, they get heroic, who they always lose to. For Na'Vi to win this major, I think would be a bigger achievement than Stockholm. Easily.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Easily.
There is a real, genuine chance that all 4 semi-finalists are from the CIS region. There is Cloud9 should probably beat Mouse. Outsiders should beat Fnatic. Spirit versus Heroic. I think Heroic probably will win, but it's close. And then Na'Vi versus Furia, Na'Vi will be favorites. There's a real chance all 4 top teams at the major in the CIS region, which is, look, all I'm saying is maybe we should split the EU and CIS RMRs up and give fewer spots to EU.
I'm not even going to entertain that. The whole point of the whole reason that we didn't like the separate ones was because the best teams would make it through a combined one. The CIS teams would still be making out of a combined one back then. They still
but I don't want the bad EU teams like FaZe Clan and Bad News Eagles and Vitality and Sprout getting through. We could replace those with funnier CIS teams. Be great.
Get a Akuma in.
Exactly.
They would know how to use the crowd to their advantage. Tell you that for free.
They'd use something to their advantage. We're already over an hour, so let's just very quickly talk about two very small things. Firstly, Eternal Fire have just made another change, brought back another old player they've already had. I don't know why they're even bothering at this point. Calyx is back to Eternal Fire. We mentioned him earlier.
Woxic out as well.
Why are they even bothering? Just give up at this point.
Yeah, it's the last dances don't work. We've seen too many. Stop this. And Voxic's leaving as well. That's the whole point.
Yeah. Maybe he can replace one of these bad AWPers. Maybe he can get back to Mouse. Speaking of packing it in, Device is already taking a break from Astralis. We're taking the piss a little bit. He's skipping their first tournament. Surely the whole point of bringing Device, of playing these events, it's the Elisa Masters SPU, whatever that means. Surely the whole point of playing this event is getting some cohesion with your new player, getting some confidence back into Device that he can still be the best player in the world. And no, he's just not bothering. Christo is playing instead, who, if you're a little bit, if you're a little bit, autistic like I am, and you might remember him at North, he was decent, but North also tried to turn him into a lurking rifler instead of an AWPer, which was, interesting. Christo can play a bit, but he's not Device. I don't really understand what the point is. I don't know what's going on with Device. Why would you not want to play this event and get used to playing with your team?
Yeah, learn more from losing than winning. It's crazy to me. It does look like they just can't be bothered. And I hope there's a better reason for it than that, because if it's about him not being ready, I think that's complete bollocks. There's nothing about being ready. This is about going together as a team on LAN and improving, because it's a proper LAN tournament. This isn't like some, like, I know he's got like the travel thing used to be a thing with Device as well, so maybe he's minimizing that, but it's like, I don't know. It's just taking the wind out of the sails of the move a little bit for me, because if he's not ready, then why would you spend so much money on him?
Yeah. And if he's not ready, how the fuck is he going to get ready if it's not with playing games on LAN?
Yeah, it's a perfect environment to warm up. But classic Astralis. Absolutely classic.
Yeah, that really is. Like, that's exactly the sort of thing that got them in this fucking trouble in the first place. Anyway, we're already over time. I think it's fine for this one to be a bumper episode, even without Logan. But that has been our show for the week. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at ReTLDR. You can follow us too. I'm at Aizyesque. It's at Nero with a 0 CS, which I know you're very happy with, and definitely don't wish you'd go back and change.
Yeah.
We'll be back again next week, maybe with Logan if he's recovered from Team Liquid's disappointment. Maybe it'll be us two again, and maybe you'll be spared the American accent for another week. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all soon.
Yeah.